Good evening, everybody. Let's try this again now that I've got it recording. On your screen should be the in-person budget revote announcement that's on our website. We did send out our postcards last week. They had to be mailed by the 7th, and that did occur. But in that web link under here where it says click for more details, it will take you to a page that's a lot less pretty, but it shows you the postcard. And I'm going to flip back and it shows you the postcard. And also, if people are wondering what it looks like, the absentee ballot request form is on there as well. See if it's going to load up. So again, not everybody automatically qualifies for an absentee ballot for this budget vote, for the revote. They actually have to fill out the application. They have to choose one of the reasons, 1 through 5. They have to choose how they want their ballot to be delivered to them if they are approved as an absentee voter. And also different for this election, they are allowing the voter to authorize somebody else to pick up their ballot for them. Wow. That is the first time ever.
Yeah, that's different.
So that just wanted to show that document off if you hadn't had a chance to take a look at it yet. So there it is. So Finance Committee meeting. I want to start. I know I sent some information out. I don't think Charlene has heard it though. The loss of WL Plastics, however, disappointing for Fort Edward in general and overall, does not have a direct negative impact on our school district assessed value, because the value we've been using, that 102 million and change, had that property at zero already. So as people are asking about it, that does not change those tax rates, the tax rates I'm going to talk about this evening too, and it wouldn't have changed the previous ones we had reported to our taxpayers either. So we were going at $0 on that. And I confirmed that because I wasn't sure. And I know in some of our public meetings, I said I had not had the confirmation from the assessor, but I did confirm with the assessor, Victoria Hayner, last week that, that $102 million assessed value was with the property, the former dewatering property, where WL was going to go in at zero. And then once they came on, they were going to have that pilot where they were worth $2 million. So that would have brought us to 104 million and change. So not great news, certainly disappointing for Fort Edward, but glad that it isn't us talking about $100 million assessed value, because I did some calculations on that last week as soon as I heard about WL not coming in, and it was pushing the tax rate about 61 cents in the wrong direction, obviously. So I just wanted to start by getting that out there on the record for folks. I've got something going on in my throat, so I'm going to have to drink just a little bit. Is there questions on that or concerns on that or anything else on that we need to share?
No, I think it's good because we were talking about having to add 60 cents to those things. So that's good. But it does affect us overall as far as what we were counting on for a pilot in order to push that money that we were counting on over to our loan. So that's not going to happen now, correct?
Right, but we were not including anything from that property or any pilot with WL in our budget projection.
So next year, right? Well, that's what we're talking about. Gotcha. For this year, right? Exactly. Right. For next year.
Right. So that's.
So then there's no immediate effect. Okay, good.
Right. Other than it's certainly long range. It doesn't help us.
Oh yeah.
All right. So several things to show this evening. I just got to get a couple more screens up and running. So what you should be able to see is forecast 5. And I don't know, is that large enough to be seen or not?
Yeah, it's okay.
And so at the top, and Charlene produced this document. I've been in doing a little bit, but it's her. She built it. I don't want to take credit for building it, but she built it. You guys have seen it a few times. I added a column to the right in yellow that shows you what your revote. I would say changes is probably a better word. I put in reductions, but changes is a better word because some things, most of them are, if not all, are reductions, but we'll put them in as changes. So in looking at what we did going out for a revote, you can see that we are going out $175,000 less on the levy. We are going to go out $11,935 less on the projection for the pilot. But Charlene and I had some conversations about the pilot, and we've both done it different ways. And I will say that the way that Fort Edward does it and has done it for a long time is a little bit more, makes Charlene a little bit more uneasy. But it is a way that we have done it. So I took some time last week and worked on the levy and the pilot to come up with that number of 349,744. That is an estimated number based on what our tax rate will be, based on an assessed value of 102 million and change, based on the levy that we're putting out. Those numbers all affect each other in a circular calculation. And I'm not a mathematician, so maybe that's not a valid way to say that. But if any of those numbers change, they affect all the others. So if the tax rate, when people are done going down, if there's any people who go down to the board that Ella sits on to fight their tax assessment and they win, and the assessment goes down a little bit, which affects the tax rate a little bit, that affects what we can collect as a pilot. But I felt good with the 349,000 number. Last time you saw that is 304,000 because that's the number it will be at the contingency. And that's the only number that you can count on. And that's why that's the number that was in there on forecast 4, because that's the number you can count on. You can count on last year's levy. It can't be any lower than that based on a contingent budget. So 349,744 is a good estimate with the levy that we have there. You can see that that's less than what we had in the defeated budget, but certainly a lot more that we can collect than if we had a contingency budget. Again, because it's based on levy and the tax rate.
Dan, that number is directly related to the fact that we went from 19% to 15.5%. That's why we're receiving less there, correct?
Correct. You're talking about percent levy increase?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll show you that we're actually a little bit lower than that 15.5.
Well, that's good. I just wanted to say that as we decrease the levy percentage, what we can get from those bigger pilots, payers, is less. We suffered from that with GE as well. That's one of the reasons why we went out with a certain percentage so we can get the maximum from them. So now we only really have one of those, but so that's why we're getting less in a revote than in the original, because we are lowering the percentage, tax percentage.
Correct.
Just wanted to be clear on that. Yeah.
Yep. As your levy goes down, your tax rate goes down, and the amount you can collect on this particular pilot, because our pilot is attached to tax rate. And as Charlene can tell you, not all pilots are attached to tax rate. Many pilots are just an agreed upon number. In the year 2021, business X will pay $100,000. And in 21-22, they'll pay $150,000 or something like that. Sometimes happens in pilot agreements in other school districts, in other municipalities. So you can see that we reduced our revenues by 186,935. Most of that was by reducing the levy. But some folks might ask the question, well, if you reduced your revenues and you reduced your expenses by 186, almost $187,000, why isn't the levy down by $187,000? Because of the pilot is the answer. It's because of the pilot. We have to factor that in. We're going to lose money on the pilot from the revenue end, so we have to reduce our expenses as well. And you can see how it breaks out. BOE services, $30,000. That's exactly what I was asked to do at the last Finance Committee meeting. We did do that. And then the health insurance, that other $156,935, that is where the rest of the savings is. Going down through, and you can see that the numbers balance going forward. And if you look at the numbers, this is important. Percent increase in tax levy is now 14.03. And our percent increase in budget is actually negative. It's 0.097. So our overall budget is down by almost 1%, and your increase in tax levy is 14.03. And let me just, I'm going to click back.
Hey Dan, can I ask you where in the drive those folded that information is? I'm looking.
You don't have forecast 5 with my Friday and last week and over the weekend calculations. Like I said in my my update on Friday, I wanted Charlene to look at them first. I told you what I was projecting, that there would be slight decrease in tax rate. So I will share them out afterwards. You guys can have them.
Dan, can you change one number on forecast 5? The property tax cap number has changed because of the pilot. So that $3,033,215 property tax cap on line 29 is actually $3,045,770.
So I'm going to put it under. Do you want me to put it under? Say it again. 45,000.
On line 29, actually, it's cell 30 D38. That $3,033,215. No, you changed it over there.
Well, I put it in the same column, but I'll put it wherever you want it to be so that it works for you.
Oh, I see. You put it over there. Okay. No, I didn't put it over there. Okay. All right.
But give me the right number, because I had 3,038,000. So you're $3,045,000.
$770. And so now you are over cap 397,134.
I don't have
that. So G38, your formula probably, unless you want to put it in another, unless you want to put it in H, but you want to do your over cap. So you'll levy the cap, and it should be 397,134, I believe. Oh, right. Maybe not because I didn't put it in there. So it's probably calculating properly.
So we'll fix that later. But so the important part of that is that your tax property cap also changes when you change your pilot.
That's right. 384,579 is correct. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Because I thought I had fixed the calculation already. So.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. So those numbers are correct. Thanks, Charlene. But the important part to understand is, because some people may say, why did your property tax cap calculation change when you put out your revote budget? The answer is because the amount we're collecting in the pilot changed, which affects that calculation as well. And we'll be laying them out side by side in the property tax cap report card, as well as in the budget notice that goes out in the Bridge newsletter that I'll be working on to get out to everybody in the next couple of weeks. Going down there, but those changes we just made there, so those are all correct now. And Charlene, what I did is I just put it down under the revote column, so I could show the old one versus the new one. So it changed by about, what's that, $12,500. Yeah. So that's where we are. But those numbers are important. And I know that tax levy increase of 14.03. is still higher than people would like it to be. I'm just going to flip back to the last one back. And these are the numbers that we have been talking about over the last few forecasts.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at like
so as we've
19,
been working through it in Finance Committee, that's the progression from 3 to 4 and now to 5, based on the revote numbers that we have.
Okay.
Can I just ask what does that translate to? Or you might be saying it later, but what does it translate to?
Yep, tax rate.
Those are the big numbers.
Absolutely.
The ones we want to know, yeah.
So let me stop sharing and then let me start sharing. And then that's this one here. All right, so now you should see one with a bluish greenish bar at the top. Okay.
Yep.
So get on the right page. So over here, this box, if I highlight it yellow, so that's that 102,791,156. That's the assessed value of the whole community. So we were concerned on Thursday/Friday that number was going to go to 100 million, which would have drove the tax rate up about 61 cents. So right now, using the 102,791,156, that's the May assessment roll from Victoria Hayner, and using our levy amount, which I'm going to put in yellow there, the tax rate is 33.37. And on the tax bill, it has to go out those 6 characters when they're calculated. But it's $33.37 per thousand. You can see that last year's was 27.39. So that is slightly lower than what we have been talking about going forward. So there's the 3605,349, right? So I went back to May 27th in Finance Committee, and then I went to 6:30 in Finance Committee. So that's where we chose. We picked some numbers and we put them in there as samples. And that's where I was able to massage, along with Charlene's help, the levy and the pilot to make the budget balance. So that's the change between the one you saw on 6:30. So, sorry, June 30th, it was $33.81 per thousand using that 3,475,349 levy.
Right. So we got another close to 50 cents out of that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I call it
43.
43 cents. Yeah, about 43 cents.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's significant.
So that is where we're at. And again, that tax rate is dependent upon the final rules that are set by the assessor after anybody goes and challenges their assessments.
Okay.
So we just want to, we're doing the best we can. Charlene, do you mind jumping in for a second and just talking to the board about how other school districts do it by locking in last year's assessed value and those types of things, just for a comparison for them?
Sure. I'm not used to the pilot being based on the tax rate. So normally you would know what your pilot is regardless of whether you're on a contingency budget or your first vote or your second vote. So I see with your declining assessments and it being significant, I mean, usually your assessments are flat or increasing. So if you use last year's assessment roll, which you're positive of, and you can compare apples to apples, then usually your tax rate will come in lower than what you project for people. With Fort Edward, because of the pilot issue and because your assessments are decreasing, if you use last year's assessments and you give an estimate what the tax rate will be, then it's going to come in higher than that. And I understand that Fort Edwards taxpayers would then be upset with the board. So I understand how Dan is doing it, and I, appreciate his experience with the pilots that are based on the tax rate. And I agree with how he's doing it. And I think that, the taxpayers will appreciate us trying to use the best data. But it does not compare apples to oranges. And I think that, you need to tell your story that the tax rate is going up no matter what, even if Fort Edward cuts their expenses or keeps their expenses flat, which is impossible. So in order to keep the tax rate flat, you have to cut services. And that's the story that we need to tell, that it's not the pilot, and it's not the tax rate, and it's not the budget, and it's not the expenditures, but it's the decreasing value of your property.
Mm-hmm.
So let me, and I know you guys get it, but I just want to give you some numbers. Whoops, let me not push the wrong button. So I'm in the tax assessed value box right now. And if I just change, make sure I did that right. If I just go, what I did is I changed I'm going to change the color so I can tell you where I'm at. If I change that from 102 million, which is just in there, to 109 million, and I put that 7 million back in that we lost since last year, look what it does to your tax rate. You'd be at $31.24.
Yep. It's $2.23.
Watch me do something absolutely insane. Let me go to your assessed value from 4 years ago. When we were worth 176 million, and that's actually lower because it was 176,985,000. Our tax rate would be $19.40. So there's, and I know that you guys know what I'm talking about, but these are talking points with our community. That if our levy had stayed where it was, and we were asking for that $3,430,349, your tax rate would be this.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that assessed value is gone, and it's not coming back anytime soon. But even if it had gone down to, let's see what it was. Even if it was at where it was in 17, 18, it's just dropped like a rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with Charlene. If our assessed value in our school district was only moving by $50,000 a year, yeah, and we had this conversation. Yeah, you use the old one. There's small variances, but when you lose $76 million, the number is just too large to do it that way. So that's what I wanted to show you on there. And again, over here on the right-hand side, you can see the change budget to budget is minus 0.97% budget to budget, and the change in levy is 14.05%. And on this sheet, the percent F means that's the budget that failed. Whenever I put that F behind it, that's the budget that failed. And RE stands for revote. I'm sure you guys could figure that out. But the other on this, it can sometimes, that threw me a little bit, is that showing the star exemption at $1,001.16. It's actually capped at the 536, but we show the true calculation. And again, Charlene made this sheet. I appreciate it. Works very well for my purposes. I've gotten better at doing what she does and just adding another tab as opposed to changing it, so I can show the history really quick across the bottom by clicking on the tabs.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that help on there.
Well, that was nice to see, because it just shows that it's imperative that our community get another business in here to help out.
Questions on those two sheets?
Dan, I just want to look at.
Go ahead, Chris.
All right, it's just a numbers thing. In the document that you were showing earlier, the spreadsheet, I think it was forecast 5. The percent you had was 1405, or excuse me, 1403, and the number that you have on the document that you just had up was 1405. So there's a 0.2 of a, or 0.02 of a percent difference. I didn't know where that number's coming from.
Yeah, let me,
I can answer that.
yeah,
Okay.
Sterling, good.
So one is budget and one is the actual tax levy.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
get a document from the real property tax office, and they say because of, I forget what, an omitted tax or something like that, you cannot levy more than list, so we have to subtract it. So last year, my spreadsheet has a little note where we had to reduce the levy by $600 and something. I think it's at the top of the forecast, $620, reduction of $620 by the real properties. You see that little note right there? Reduction of $620 per real property. So the
Yep.
actual levy was $620 less than. So when you're comparing budget to budget, it's one number, levy to levy, it's another.
Okay, thank you.
And I've been consistently using the 3,008,343 because that's the number that the community all received last year. But you guys did approve that reduction of $620 and refund. I forget the name of the person, but the assessor had levied taxes and placed an assessment on a house that was no longer there, that had been taken down.
Yep.
We do have a similar one that you folks, that the board will have to act on at our August meeting because there was an incorrect assessment by the assessor on a home here in Fort Edward where it should have been 100% value at 137 on the tax bill went out. It was the they had it at a much higher rate in the 137 as the actual taxable value after the what's that number called? I can't remember the
Equalization.
Thank you, equalization rate. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it was at 137. It should have been at 100. So we will have a small tax refund to approve at the next board meeting.
Yeah, I think it's right around $1,000.
Okay.
All right, Dan, can we talk some brass tax numbers here? So what our new budget revote is asking for is approximately $4.10 more, correct?
You're talking per thousand, Tom?
Per assessed 1,000, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, let me pull it back up.
And it's less than what it was, obviously, when we first went out. But now
Because-
we're looking for,
It's actually, can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see it. The tax spreadsheet again.
Yep.
So no matter what, yeah, so we were 27 last time. So we haven't done, I think I know exactly what you're asking, Tom. So I'm going to put this box in blue, that 3,008,343. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type it in here. And I think this is what Tom is asking. And if I'm wrong, I'll get to it. So even if we go to contingency, you can see the tax rate, 29.27, basically 29.2666.
Yep.
Even at a contingent budget, people's tax rate is going to go up by about, is that $1.70? And here's why. It's because of this number over here, that 102 million.
Mm-hmm.
Not being 109 million like it was last year. So you're right, Tom. If this is what you were asking, you were talking about $4.
Yep.
On a contingent budget, tax rate's going to be, we're estimating it at 29. Let's call it 29.27.
yeah.
29.27 to vote the budget down, or we need a supermajority. Let me put the other number back in here.
So it's $1.70 if we go to contingency increase. It's $4.10 if we pass the budget. right? So the difference between those two numbers is really what we're asking folks to consider for the benefit of their children and their neighbors' children and their neighbors' grandchildren, is to vote for this budget. And yes, if it's $4.10 on assessed thousand, maybe it's going to cost some folks $400 more than it did last year. If your house is worth or assessed less than $100,000, then it's going to cost you less. But we're basically asking for $400 for everyone's house. If it's again $100,000, assessed $100,000, by the way. That's what we're asking for. Or you're going to pay $1.70, and your neighborhood kids and your community children and your friends' grandkids and children and all that stuff are going to have an incredibly lousy school experience. So the net difference between $4.10 and the $1.70 is really, but it's going to cost people about $400 if their house is assessed at $100,000. And while that's a lot of money, there's no doubt about it, and it's an increase on top of what you've already been paying. What we're essentially asking for is $400 to keep our school at a level where our kids can have a well-rounded and full experience. I don't know that that's an incredible ask. I think we need some people to think about their neighborhood kids and their friends' kids, and is it too much to ask for $400? Some will say yes. I'm hoping more say that it's not too much to ask. Hope about 60% actually say that's not too much to ask. So
I'd like it to be higher than 60%, just to make it easy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. That actually brings me in the right direction. I want to share a different screen, and it looks like maybe there's some people in this document already looking at it. Let's see this one. So let's talk about the difference between contingent and passing the budget as it relates to what we'll have to do as far as reductions. And I got your email, Charlene, about the reductions. I went through it all. I have a list of them with numbers. But here's where it is. Very simply, if the budget does not pass with a supermajority, here's what we're looking at. Having to do to reduce that extra, the number of additional reductions I have to make is $467,006 if our budget does not pass, and we cannot vote again. So I'll have to reduce it by $467,006. And these reductions that I've listed, I know it's a very plain list. In instruction, 2.5 FTE. In instructional support, 2.0 FTE. In student support services, 0.8 FTE. In administration, 0.8 FTE. In athletics, 100% of all athletics. In extracurriculars, 100% of all extracurriculars. That gets me to just barely above $467,000 in reductions. In that, it's important to say that those reductions are in addition to what we had reduced when we went out with our previous budget. So that was in addition, those reductions listed at the top of that page are in addition to the 11 positions abolished and the 10 positions reduced at our June board meeting.
Right.
I guarantee you that we were not sitting on top of 21. We were not sitting on top of 28 positions we didn't need around here. And it's the reductions we made already are making a schedule very, very challenging. Although Mrs. Scotch and Mr. Ratty have worked through that process in the high school. Now that one is in decent shape, awaiting the passing of the budget. The elementary office and council will start working on theirs because obviously one flows off of the other. So, and if you want to talk about what instruction it is, I didn't put this on there, but you're looking at things such as elementary art, health, music, physical education. Student support services means counseling and psychological services. Instructional support means teaching assistants and teacher aides. Obviously, administration means one of 3 people. So that's where we're at. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Folks, I guess the talking points are exactly what Dan talked about. How, well, you know, it's the revenue piece that's killing us. It's really nothing else. The revenue, if we had the revenue, we'd be fine. We've done the cuts that we can do to keep the school looking what it should be looking like for kids. Less than, but it's still at a level where we want to keep it. Anything more would just be more detrimental. So it's, if your house is worth $100,000, we're asking you to pay $400 additionally, essentially. And again, that's if your house is assessed at $100,000, because the assessment is not exactly 100%, right? So your house is assessed at $100,000. It's $400 on top of what you've been paying. And I know it's a lot of money. I don't want to minimize it. I know folks out there have tight budgets and fixed budgets, and we all do. But it's $400 to pitch in for our community, to support our school. People that have lived here their whole life have supported that school their whole life. You move to Fort Edward, the village anyway, you know there's a school here, and you are going to pay taxes if you're a homeowner to support that school. So there's kind of an agreement there, okay? And at some point, folks are going to decide they no longer want to support that school. They have 2 choices: to vote no on the budget or go somewhere else, I guess. But right now, we need everyone to pitch in. It's $400 extra, roughly. For some folks, it's going to be less. For some, a little bit more. I just don't think that's too much to ask. I hope it's not too much to ask people to support the school.
So I'll echo a little bit of that. So really, that budget that we're putting out is what it costs to do it. It really is. And those reductions I just talked about, that list, will make for, I can't tell you that's the kind of experience that you would want for your children. Certainly, as a superintendent, I'm required to get to a number along with Charlene's help, and obviously along with the board's help. That number that's in that contingency budget is not going to let this school and the programs provided to our children, to your children and grandchildren and neighbors, look like what it has looked like for the past almost 100 years. Almost 100 years. So I'll be preparing for the budget hearing, which is on the 21st. I'm looking for any feedback on what that message should sound like, because I want it to be positive about what we've done. You know, and it's tough sometimes to be positive, but we've done a lot of good things. We've done a lot of good work. It's just an unprecedented time, and I know people are probably they don't want to hear that anymore. We are where we are, right? And I agree with that. We are where we are, and what I would say is that if there's any chance of a school being sustainable, and I'm going to ask Charlene about 5-year projections, and not to share a document, Charlene, but just to talk about it in generality, where we are with 5-year projections if we're at a contingency budget next year. And I know you guys know about our 5-year projections already. And Charlene, I haven't shared with the board yet that little narrative that you sent me last, it was either Friday or Saturday. But if you don't mind talking about the 5-year projections and just the bottom part of the part about Fort Edward in that narrative, and I'll send it out to them. even if you can just do it, you don't have to read the whole thing, but even if you just remember a couple of those points.
Okay, well, you're catching me off guard because I don't have it right here in front of me. But I think Dan is just talking about, the situation that Fort Edward is in, and a contingency budget is just going to make it worse. So if you continue at the cap, you just don't have enough cash. You don't have enough revenue to survive. And each year, if you look at the 5-year forecast, even using the budget that we originally put out, the revenue was not there over the 5-year period to sustain your program. So even if the budget had been approved, we would have seen $200,000, $300,000 needing to be cut each of the next 5 years. And that is not even building your fund balance. That's just balancing your expenditures to your available revenues. So at some point, you have no choice but to try to exceed the tax cap in order to maintain your programs. So your bargaining units have stepped up to the plate, and they have given back benefits and salaries and renegotiated their contracts. And you really do need, without the state or the federal government contributing more funds, and nobody really sees that happening in the near future, you really do need to get your taxpayers to exceed the tax cap. And so we just need to tell our story better. The route that we're going, even with this budget, is really going to make it hard for Fort Edward to meet their obligations. That your cash flow is not adequate. Your fund balance is not adequate. The programming that you're going to provide, maybe that is not going to be adequate. So you really are reaching a point where, there's just a lot of red flags, fiscally, financially, and your support, your staffing, not only from a program standpoint, but even your support staff. You're really reaching a point where it's going to be difficult to do all the work that you need to do to provide all the reports that you need to provide. And that's not just from the shared business office, but it's from your district clerk and your deputy district treasurer, it's your payroll. I mean, the state is asking for more and more reports, so is the federal government. So as you're reducing your staff, you're asking them to do more and more with less time. So Fort Edward really is in a situation where they really need to get the taxpayers to step up to the plate. They need to realize that the assessments are falling, and that in order to continue with the school, in order to have a good school in a good community, that they have to pay more. And if they don't get the message, that the children really are the program does suffer. It will suffer.
All right, Dan, you kind of went the opposite of the positive message thing there. I just wanted to point that out. But let's talk about the positive message, okay? So I think that we do have to be positive about it. I think one of the things is express that we're not asking for a whole lot. We can use a whole lot, but what we're asking for is what we need for the kids. That's the message, right? The difference between the contingency budget, it's still going up, but giving the kids a great experience is only a couple of bucks more than a no vote. So we have to talk about that. We have to be positive when we go out here. I know some of us on this board still believe we could have cut some things. We could have done admin stuff. We could have brought some children back. We could have done some things. I just want to say at this point, that wasn't going to make a hell of a lot of difference. Okay, the net gains from making those types of changes aren't this cash flow that's going to come in. And a lot of us were looking at the terrifying reality of what else do we have to do to get this budget across, because if it fails, it's the worst thing possible. I don't think making any other changes than what we've made at this point would make a hill of beans a difference. I think people are going to vote the way they're going to vote. And we have to give them the reality of it. You live here, you support the school, you support your neighborhood kids. We've kept it as low as we can for as long as we could. We're still lesser on our budget, what we're asking for, than we have in previous years. Our budget is reduced. It's just that we need more money because we have less revenue. That's the reality. I think if we level with folks and tell them what it is, I think that's what we have to do. The other thing is, obviously, as we look down the road here, I don't know what there would be to get more from next year. I imagine our revenue situation is going to be the same. I imagine that we're going to have to ask for more money from folks and all over the place. How much longer can that sustain? How much longer can taxes continue to go up? And that's why we do what we do when we're doing what we do as far as looking at annexation. Okay, it's not what we want to do, but that's why we're looking into it. So folks that are angry that we looked at for the annexation and they're voting no doesn't make any sense. So we have to level with those people. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, we're looking at what might have to happen down the road. So if there's anger about us doing the merger study, we have to level with those folks and just take a look at the numbers, folks. We're struggling to get 60% on $4. What's next year going to look like in the year after that? So give us this year, and then we'll see what next year is going to look like. But we need this year to level this school and hurt the kids this way. Doesn't make any sense. So we just need folks to come out and vote yes. And unfortunately, it's going to hit them in the pocket a little bit, but we've done the best we can to keep it low, and now we have nowhere else to go. I don't know how else to say it, but I think if we continue to talk about, well, maybe if we did this, and maybe if we cut that, maybe if we did, it's just uncertainty about our mission here, what we're trying to accomplish. We got to take a look at what we've done. I think it's great work. And I don't think that we could have done or should have done anything more. The payoff would not be what everyone thinks it's going to be. Oh, we're going to find $300,000 by cutting admin and bringing some kids back. It wouldn't even be close to that amount of money. So next year, we're going to look at things differently. This year, this is what we've come up as a finance committee. It's what we're recommending to the Board of Education. And I think that's what we have to support. If we're not supporting that and going out to the public and talking about it that way, I think that's what hurts us the most. If we're not supporting what we're going out with. So I think that's important.
Tom, can I just say quickly, I agree with most of what you said. We just got to be careful. A couple of things you brought up, whether it's looking at administrator, looking at bringing kids back, homeschooling, those actions and comments by board members are direct response to what we hear from people in the community. So we've got to make sure that the community knows that we're listening to what they're saying and we're trying to act on it. Now, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with the fact that it's not going to save us much money. But if it saves anything, we have to do our due diligence and look at it. So my comment would be, don't just disregard it. Look at it and say, as Dan did the previous meeting that we had, we said, listen, this is what's going to happen if there's a change in the administrative team. So it may not be a collection, but just don't disregard it because it won't save us much. We have to respond to what the community wants. We hear that from many people, and I'm sure it's not just me. So we have to act on it, and we did. But again, for the most part, I agree with what you said. We can't poo-poo some of those things that come from the community.
Right. Well, we did make changes to that structure. We did make some reductions. We didn't, it wasn't like a mob rule thing where we said, okay, let's get rid of someone. We're making the decisions, the informed decisions that we're making on the inside as a board. I agree, James. I don't want to disregard anyone. But I don't think that this year is the time, or at least at this point in our budget season, is the time to be wondering if we should have done something like that, or kind of, being maybe we should have done more. I think we have to commit to what we've done. And next year, obviously, we're going to have to make some changes, right? So we got to leave a little bit of meat on the bone to be able to make any changes next year.
I agree. I think it's a budget we can fully support. We're all behind it. This is the best we could do. And like we had said before, we looked at those things and what was it going to do, but we have to make the point, the fact that we addressed it, but we have to support this budget.
Gotcha.
I'm just hoping too, we can kind of leave the annexation conversation out. Let's just get the budget passed and maybe not bring that up right now. Let's stay positive, as we said.
Understood.
So I'm looking at so it's tough when we're not in the same room. We've all realized that. So I have a list of committee members up here on the board. And a lot of times when we were meeting in committee, we would make sure that everybody had a chance to say something. And so I'm looking at it. Ella just chimed in, so I put a check mark next to her name. But Chris, and I can see you, and I don't know if, and I see Todd's on there, but I don't know, Chris, you're on, and Todd is the alternate. Do you guys have anything? And then we can open it up.
Yep. I think the budget that we have put out this time around is just as good as the first one. You know what I mean? As far as like still trying to maintain the quality of education that our kids deserve. I mean, we had to make some cuts. We found some money due to some negotiations and stuff, but I think that the community needs to support this budget. It is imperative. And I think you did a really good job highlighting the fact that our community needs to get some revenue. We need to get some business in here to help reduce our tax amount. We have a business. It takes a certain amount of money to run this business, and we need to get that money from the community, you know, and until a business comes into our district, it's going to have to come to from our community. When a business comes in, they can start taking that share, and you showed in your numbers when the value of our town goes up, our tax assessment rates go down, and there's a direct correlation to that. So we need to people need to keep in mind that let's not take this out on the kids. Your frustrations, whatever they might be, I know them, I feel them every single day myself. But when it comes down to it, literally our kids' futures are on the line. We cannot, as an educator, I cannot allow our district to go any lower than what it is. A contingent budget is not going to do anything good for our kids. And anybody out there that thinks that a contingent budget will be a positive thing, I don't know. I'm struggling with that. I really am. This is what we need right now. We need this budget to pass 100%. I don't know what else to say. I just need this budget to pass. That's all.
Todd, did you have? Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, as the alternate, Dan here. Dan, I appreciate you laying everything out. Again, there's only, I think, 13 people on. Most of them are board members. I think outside of the board, there's only 1 or 2 other members. So we hear the message loud and clear, but I think that the community needs to hear it. So everything you laid out today, I know this is recorded, but again, showing what that contingency budget looks like with the minus negative 467. With all those positions lost, as well as athletics and extracurricular activities, and emphasizing this idea that it is a revenue issue in terms of assessed value, I think we can get this to pass. But again, all has to be laid out and communicated. And I don't know. I think we gave it our best shot at this point where we're at. We've cut a lot. I mean, you mentioned again, I like that you laid it out there earlier. We reduced 11 positions, 10 in the FTA. All those things. So if you can, emphasize that within any of your presentations that are delivered on the website, get those word out before the vote. Hopefully we can swing it from 54% up to 60%, especially the walk-in votes. I'm optimistic with the walk-in votes helping.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Finance Committee, because I know I've been the alternate through this, but I think you've done a good job.
Thanks.
Comments from other board members? Again, we open the meetings are open to the public. So unless Tom, you say you don't want to hear from anybody else, because you're the boss. I just work here.
Listen, I think contributions from board members, I want everyone to talk, even if it's just to say, sounds good, everyone, or but this. I mean, everyone should contribute. I mean, we've worked on becoming a collaborative board, but I'm gonna say something because I'm getting old and my filter's not what it used to be. I agree that talking about annexation is not the most positive thing to talk about. But I will tell you that those no votes were not people that were looking to keep the school open.
No.
Those no votes or probably yes votes to a merger. And a lot of people, when they're looking at paying taxes, the one thing they're saying is it's going up $4 this year. It's going up what next year? Am I going to continually have to keep increasing my taxes every year? No, I'm done. I'm voting no. So if we let people know that we're looking at alternatives and looking at options, you won't have to keep paying $400 more every single year. Some folks might say, well, you know what? Okay, so at least you guys are researching it. Maybe there's some relief on the horizon. So I'll give you this year. That's a direct quote from someone I spoke to. So you got to think about those folks that voted no. The folks that wanted to see administrative changes pretty much voted yes. So we got to talk to the people who voted no. Why did they vote no? Is $400 too much money? Was $6 was $600 too much? Now 400's okay. 19% was too high, but 14%'s okay. Or is there another thing behind it? They're done supporting the school. They don't want the school here. They've been hearing merger, this and that and the other thing, and that's what they're looking to do because the community can no longer afford to support the building. So if we tell those folks we're investigating things, the community is going to vote, but we're investigating things, it might help them realize that we're doing other things, not just saying, give me 400 more this year, give me 300 more next year, give me this, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut that. So we have to recognize there are people that voted no because they think they don't want to support the school anymore. And telling them that we're looking at other avenues, one of them is that horrible A word, at least it's going to give them some type of outlook that maybe it's not always going to be this way. Cuts, tax increase. Cuts, tax increase. That's pretty much what we're looking at, folks. Unless some miracle happens, and we're going to work to get that miracle to happen. I know a lot of good people are working to get somebody down to help our revenue. Unless that happens, that's what we're looking for. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I don't want to go against that stuff. But some folks need to hear that in order to possibly think, well, you know what? It's short term. I'm going to help out. I'm just saying.
Can I make it short and sweet?
Yeah.
If we have to go to that contingent budget, we're sending our kids to school. If we have the budget that we're putting out there, our kids are going to get a complete education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's
a great. That's a great. I don't want to spoil your head, James, but that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I've already patented it, so if you're going to use it, you got to pay.
One is the mandates. One is mandates only, and that's going to be a stretch to cover all the mandates with that contingent budget. And one is something beyond the mandates for our kids, for your kids.
I'm going to just say, Dan, when you're presenting, perhaps it would be helpful to have, when you present your screen, I don't know that a lot of people, it's not an easy visual for people that they're looking at it. So maybe some sort of a screen or something with the mailer that's going out that just very simply says page 1 or half a page or whatever, this has already been cut. And then the second one, what would be saved with this yes of 60%? What would be lost with the contingency having to go through?
Got it.
It's very easy visuals instead of the Excel, which is fine for us, and because we're used to dealing with it as educators or throughout the board or whatever. But I think layman's terms kind of idea is like so very easily like visuals that are super easy to see or to understand. I don't know. That might be helpful.
It's a good point.
You're going to do it in a PowerPoint, right, Dan?
Not everybody does.
You're going to do it in a PowerPoint, right?
Yeah, I'll do it through that. But I also think that it's important in the mailer that goes out, because not everybody's going to jump on to watch the budget hearing, but everybody's going to get that thing mailed to their house. And even if I can say, and I don't hold me to what I'm saying, but even if I had 2 columns, what's in, what's out, you know what I mean? Or contingent versus pass this budget. In this one, it says mandates only. In this side, it says mandates plus electives, plus athletics, plus key club, plus this club, that club, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'll have to think on a way to do that simply, but I think the same in the budget hearing, to have it a little more simplified maybe. And I know you guys know the spreadsheets because at least the committee has seen those spreadsheets a few times now. So I use them with you guys because it's easy to quickly manipulate the numbers and say, watch what happens when I go to the assessed value of 4 years ago. Poof, it's like magic, right? But I can't do that with everybody else, although I think that spreadsheet on the taxes, when I do the budget hearing, I think I will show that one, even if it's just that top part where I say, here's our assessed value now. Here's the tax rate. Here, if I go to what we were assessed at last year, just those 3 examples. Here, if we go back 4 years. So I'm just showing that it's the assessment driving the rate more so than the expense, more so than the levy. Let me say it that way. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Christine. That makes sense.
Dan, along with what Christina is saying is that, whatever you're presenting there during that presentation, that PowerPoint, and those spreadsheets or whatever, if you can have those accessible, on the website. So if somebody that can't see on the screen can have a second device open, that's just personally how I work. I would have 3 different screens open and looking at all those things if I'm really interested. For those people that are having a hard time seeing that small screen, it allows them to actually go back to it at a later time. And here's evidence. And if they're sitting on the street and somebody arguing with somebody, they just pull it up and this is what we're showing. This is whatever we're showing is happening. This is factual. This is not, I won't get political with you with whatever's going on outside of Fort Edward, but it's about facts. Put the facts out there.
No, that's good. Yeah, get the docs out a little earlier for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually why I was going to put our budget hearing on the Monday, the 20th. I put it on the 21st because that gives me Monday to make any last changes I want to make or revisions. But I think I'll try to get them out the Friday prior. That should give people plenty of time to take a look at them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is helpful because if you look at the past meetings, there are quite a few people that come out on their phones or whatever, so they might not have a Chromebook available to them. So, and I kind of like Todd's idea because sitting here right now, I'm talking to you on the Chromebook, but I have my computer open for the documents. So I'd like having both. So,
yep, makes sense. Anybody else with any feedback? Joe, I can see you there, Joe.
Joe wants to say something. Come on, Joey.
You can see it through the screen. I'm just sitting.
Yes.
So I like what everybody had for ideas. I think for the presentation part, if you can, like Todd said, maybe start off with what all the facts are for where we are today and what we got to get done. And then what maybe the positive note is what everybody's done to this point, meaning this is what we've had, the teachers, the support staff, XYZ, whatever along the way. So this is what we've done. And now we're at this last point of this is what we need from everybody else to get us over that finish line all together. And maybe that would sum it up. I love the idea about having things simple. I love the idea about facts. And I think if we keep it that way and you can have that data easily available, that way you can look anywhere they need to on the website, that's going to make it so much easier for them to see. And then it won't just be like, well, I heard this. Well, this is what it is. This is the facts right here. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Thanks, Joe. Dan,
Anita couldn't be here tonight. She let us know that she couldn't be at the meeting tonight. She's not on the committee, but she couldn't make it. I think Dan Shield
is out there.
Yeah, Dan's out there.
I am here. I'm just at a birthday party, so I'm kind of hanging out over on the edge of the deck right now.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. 8th birthday party.
Anything, Dan, to add or comment on it? It's okay if you don't.
No, I like the idea of the flyer. Just put more information on there so they have it right in their hands.
Good. Enjoy the party.
Thank you. Just got done with cake.
Charlene, is there anything that I missed that we need to talk about tonight? I know you sent me the property tax cap. Do you want me to show that to the board? I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I do have to submit that tomorrow. I have no choice.
All right. Give me 1 second. So yeah, it's due on the 14th. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of choice when the dates got announced, and I know this is going to be difficult to look at this way. But really, Charlene, is there the calculations that are on here are taken directly from the budget that we presented. What do you want to take them through anything on here, or you just want to make sure they know that you're presenting it, you're uploading it to the state tomorrow?
Yeah, they don't technically, I don't think, have to approve that. They do, I think, have to approve the budget notice, and that has to go out the day after the public hearing. So I don't know if you're going to, I mean, it's been approved after the fact before, but the numbers are the same. So this is the one that has to be submitted tomorrow. So we have to, the levy has to be, they have to choose the forecast 5 and, you know, support this document so I can submit it tomorrow. So.
Yeah. So the nuts and bolts of this are that our property tax report card shows what we're going out with for a total budget. Shows what. Let me move it over. Total budget shows what our levy is going to be. And
are you sharing that? Because I can't see it.
Oh yeah, you're right. I probably should share that. Sorry. I'm just looking at my own screen and pretending like you guys can see it. Sorry about that, everybody. It's a very this interesting spreadsheet, but it's the required format. We don't have choice in that, which Charlene's got to upload. But it just provides the specific information required by the state of New York for every single school budget and school budget revote this year. Tells us last year's and this year's and gives a difference so the state can do the calculations on it. And what is important, the most important, I think, is that box right there that I'm going to make yellow. And when you have a negative value in that box, you have to have 60% voter approval, which means you have to have the supermajority. So just want to make sure the board understands that we're still going out for a supermajority because that $3,045,000 that Charlene shared with us, that our tax cap, we could get 45,000. We could get what, 38,000 more than last year? Round figures, real quick in my head. That does not provide the program that the board and the finance committee have talked about providing to our kids. It also shows that we have no fund balance to apply, and it shows we have to show it all of our reserves on there. So it's so that the state can know, and we also have to have the tax report card out to our voters when the budget notice goes.
Mm-hmm.
But we provided all the information to you folks in the other documents. This is just the one that New York has to get from us. Not a great way to present that one, sorry. Here, let's do this. Now at least you can see the whole thing. If your eyes are strong enough, you can see the whole thing on one page. But the numbers get smaller.
I think, Dan, the only thing I'd add is, as you were saying, 38,000 more, you know, the tax cap, $38,000. What is $38,000 going to cover? It just doesn't cover anything. And, you know, we talked about that before. You know, we had the increase in debt this year, although we did say by refunding some older debt, we saved a lot more than we thought we were going to. But the money that we had to go out there and borrow because of the tax cert, you know, $38,000 just isn't going to cut it. So, you know, this extra money is what we need to really to keep the school viable and keep it functioning.
Okay.
Good point, Shirley. Thank you.
All right. Anything else, guys, before we adjourn?
I just want to thank Charlene again. Your presentations are great. The information is really, really easy to understand. So I appreciate everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Charlene's going to be, she's working tomorrow, but then she's on vacation the rest of the week because her grandkids are coming up. I forget from where, Charlene.
We're not talking about that.
You're coming
I hope it's
from
not Florida.
We are in 14-day quarantine.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
sorry.
So we're going
Anyway.
from the house to the backyard to the pool to the backyard. Just we're not going anywhere.
So
As long as it's your pool.
she's going to be off for a few days.
My pool.
That's why I pushed us to a Monday on this meeting, so that way she and I would have tomorrow to get back together on any little things if we had to make it work. So the submissions could be done to the state of New York, and so I could have the budget notice to start working on the abridged newsletter for the revote. So
Yeah, I appreciate that. I only get to see him twice a year, so it's really tough.
Enjoy
long
it.
walk from next door to your house. But I'm going to stop presenting that. All right, so it's up to if the board is good. I'm good. That's what I have for tonight. That's what Charlie and I had talked about, and that's where we are. So I'll take it down to just a couple of things. Please let people know that in-person voting is happening. If you have people out there that are planning on absentee voting, they need to know that's not an automatic. They have to get the application. They have to fill it out. They have to send it in. They have to be approved, and then the ballot goes to them for voting. With the absentee ballots, the rules are the ballot must be here no later than 5 p.m. on the date of the vote. Postmark plays no part in this. It plays no part. It has to be here. But they can drop them off in person, and they can obviously they can put them in the mail. We did some good work since the last Finance Committee meeting. So in the last 13 days, since June 30th, you're seeing a lower tax rate and a lower levy. That's good news for everybody out there. Everybody like to see it a lot lower. And again, it's through the massaging of that pilot and the projections now that we know what's going on with WL. The other talking point is WL did not hurt us immediately. It's bad for Fort Edward, but it doesn't change our assessed value that we've been using in our budgeting. That's huge to let people know that we had some foresight there on the way that we were doing things, so that we weren't caught by surprise by that. Although, again, I did make sure I got a hold of Victoria Hayner last week to make sure that I had it right, because I was questioning myself. So I have her email saying that in fact is the lowest it's going to go for now.
Cool. Okay.
I'll work on a
everybody.
presentation.
All right, folks. We good?
Yep.
Have a
Thanks,
good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.